In this lesson, we will create a new Blazor project with WebAssembly Interactivity.
Hello, this is Kazimierz Spin. Welcome to the Code with Kazik channel, where I demonstrate how to effectively learn programming and become a successful programmer.
So I choose the standard Blazor Web App. Name it Blazor App WebAssembly. Next, I choose interactivity type as WebAssembly. For a change, I will set interactivity location to per page component. I create such a project. As you can see, for the WebAssembly project, the project structure is somewhat different. We have a division into a server application and a client application. And now a very important thing, all components that have interactivity in WebAssembly mode must be in this additional project called client, because this application, this code we have, will be downloaded to the browser, just like before when we created a regular WebAssembly application. So we have two projects here. In the first, the code will be on the server, inaccessible to the user and the browser. And the second project is the client, a typical WebAssembly application. And this server project is like a base project, and it contains, you could say, the client sub-project. So here in the server, if we look at dependencies, we have this reference to the client project. So it's like the main project, and the client application is part of this server project. The code we will create here on the client side will also be accessible from the server side because the server uses the client library. Okay, now please take a look at the program.cs file in the server application. Here, just like before, we have add Blazor components. This time, we call the add interactive WebAssembly components method. Additionally, besides the standard map Blazor components call, we call add interactive WebAssembly render mode and add additional assemblies type of counter assembly. This entry is very important because it allows us to create separate pages with routing in our client, and it will work. Without this entry, without this line, the server would not see the client's routing. So just add the assembly of any file from the client project here. And here is the counter component, which is in our client. And thanks to this, if we place the routing here, it will be visible in our application. In the previous module, we intentionally created a complete Blazor WebAssembly application to make it easier for you to understand why this project looks the way it does in this lesson. The client should not call any logic directly from the server, only through the web API, and it will be the same here. In fact, this server application could also be our API. It can be done without any problem, but I am not a fan of such a solution. In my opinion, it is better to create a new separate project that will only be our web API, so as not to mix different responsibilities in these projects. When creating the project this time, we chose to declare the interactivity mode per component, not globally. So if you go to the app.razor file located on the server, you will notice that the rendering mode is not declared here. There is no additional entry. However, such an entry is in the counter file, which is in the client, and only on this one component in our template do we have interactivity, and it has been declared in this way, meaning we have the render mode set to interactive WebAssembly. One more important thing, if you had declared the interactivity mode location as global when creating the project, then all the components we have here on the server would have to be in the client. In this second template, these components would be moved here to the client. That's the introduction. Now we can run the application. To run it, you only need to base it on the server project, meaning you don't have to run both projects here, just the server one, and it will work because the client is inside this project. So I'm starting our project, our application, and let's go straight to the counter page. If I click here, you'll notice that everything works. We have interactivity set up on WebAssembly. If we go to the developer tools and the application tab, I'll clear the data, meaning I'll remove the WebAssembly we've already downloaded. I'll refresh the application, and you'll see that WebAssembly has been downloaded. In the network tab, WASM, you can see that everything was downloaded on the first connection. Clicking works, but if I refresh again, WebAssembly is not downloaded a second time because we already have it cached. And of course, the click me button still works without any issues. By the way, notice how quickly the application loads now. Even the first connection is very fast. And here we are also using pre-rendering by default. So this application is also SEO optimized. And here's an interesting thing. For example, the weather page uses only server-side rendering because there's no interactivity here. So as you can see, within one application, you can mix different rendering modes, meaning this page has WebAssembly rendering mode, and here it's just server-side rendering.
That's all for today. If you enjoyed this film, be sure to join my community, where you'll also have access to exclusive additional materials and, most importantly, fantastic special bonuses. The registration link is located in the description box below the video. See you in the next episode.